babies. Baby's first Blucher. We are going back to Bumville, Absolute Emperor by Boyd Bruce. Not a bad core level Napoleonic game in its own right. Let down a little bit by Osprey's bottom of the barrel editing process and just some odd choices in here. Oh yeah, no, it's divisions, but you have to worry about forming square, which is done at the brigade level. So a little bit of oddities, but the learning scenarios in this are simply wonderful. 2v3, 5v4. We're going to be doing the third Battle of Bumville. It's not this map, it's on the next page, which features a French and a British force. Looks a little something like this. So the French have 2 units of infantry, a grand battery, how about that? A couple of units of cavalry. They have to take Bumville. And they got to take it despite the fact that there are 4 units of infantry defending it, 1 artillery, and then, of course, the 1 little cavalry down there. Now, notice the orange infantry down there. Let's take a look at the order of battle. That is going to be 1 conscript infantry division on the Allied side. See right there, 1 conscript infantry. This is my learning game of Blucher. Now, Blucher, of course, you get this bespoke book. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And he does have a basic scenario of his own, the Battle on the Danube, which is a 2-hour learning battle. You got to download stuff. You got to print stuff. I'll say this, Sam Mustafa, the author, is very kind. When he gives you something you have to print at home, he makes sure that it's very printer friendly. White cards with maybe a blue border versus a red border. Not a whole lot of red ink, a lot of blue ink on those. So I like that. But we're looking at 170 pages here. I got to step way back because I'm not used to this style of gaming. We're going to make some simplifying assumptions because we're not trying to play Blucher as is. We're trying to get comfortable with some of the core mechanics. We can get those automated, and then we can start thinking about and worrying about more of the advanced game stuff. Now, again, Sam gives you the complete basic game. Activation, how you win, how you shoot, how you fight, all that stuff. And then he starts layering on advanced things like weather, reinforcements, entrenchments, how you rally people, what sub-commanders can do. Yeah, not going to worry about any of that today. I just want to get the core mechanics down. Now, one of the chief simplifying assumptions that I'm going to make is that every unit has 6 elan. Not necessarily the case across the board, but that will kind of make things easier for me to track. It's one less thing for me to worry about. Oh, does that guy have 7? Does that have... Because I don't have the nice, wonderful cards that I'm using here. My artillery ammo is just going to be a simple 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Every shot they take, the ammo drops a little bit. So let's take a look at our... I'm just going to set up the terrain and the figures, and we'll talk a little bit more about scale. Welcome to Bumville. It is defended by 3 divisions of seasoned infantry. 1 division of conscript. Now you can see this has like the 3 brigades, kind of 2 and 1. They're all lined up. Bing, bang, boom. We have 1 artillery battery and 1 unit of, what is this? Seasoned light cavalry. So what is that? Now that's in Absolute Emperor terms. What does that mean in Blucher terms? On the defense, we have 1 unit of light cavalry. We're going to call those dragoons, actually. They do have shock. We have 3 units of elite infantry, 1, 2, 3, the reserve force back here. Now, they all have skirmish, firepower, and steady. We have 1 unit of allied infantry. They have skirmish. They are militia, and we'll talk about what that means later. All of the artillery on the board are going to be heavy artillery. In order to make this a little more fair, in Blucher terms, our attacking force of French will consist of 2 units of, what are we going to call those guys? Let's call them guard infantry. That way they have skirmish and shock, and they're steady. They're outnumbered. On the flanks, on either wing here, we have 2 units of dragoons. They just have shock. And then a major battery of artillery. All of the artillery on the board are going to be heavy artillery, and they're going to have a firepower of 5, 4, 3, 2, 2. Gonna have to rely, the French are relying, and I know this is really a wagon train. I only have 2 artillery batteries for French. My collection is pretty pathetic. The more I learn about Napoleonics, the more I learn that this kind of halfway between pre-Napoleonic and Napoleonic just doesn't really work. There were just too many advances. And I really like the way these divisions look with the 4 individual brigades. If I had it to do all over again, I'd do my 2mm all like this, and I would have bought a heck of a lot more artillery for the French. But nobody really wants to tell a beginner this stuff. They really just want you to kind of discover it through play. A little annoying. What are you going to do? Notice it is turn 1. We're going to let the French go first. And I am using Happy Blucher to set my momentum. In this game, you don't know how many activation points you have. So what we can do is use a little program over here. It will roll 1d6 for each force. And I'm going to use that first d6 to move my artillery off the hill. Boom. That's 1 inch of movement for those artillery. Since these are heavy artillery units, they can move a total of 2 inches. Bear in mind they have a range of 8 inches. That's going to be very important. The infantry units can also move 2 inches. The cavalry, of course, can move 4 inches and then 1 inch through difficult terrain. Do we want to bring the cavalry up already? Well, I don't even know if we can. I'm going to check my momentum, and it says, so by bringing these up, I can bring them all up. Regardless of what I rolled, I get to move at least 1. I've used 3 of my points, and when I click my little check button, it says, stop, your turn is over. So that's the end of turn number 1. The French are done. The British don't want to move at all. They're going to start off by activating individual units. Bear in mind, if you move, you don't get to shoot. So that's it for the artillery, and they do have a range of 8 inches. Notice that this artillery unit is within range. We're going to get into a little bit of an artillery duel here for a couple of turns, but we do have something else we want to do first. We're going to activate this individual group. We're going to bring them so they can move 1, 2 inches like so. We're going to go ahead and bring them out right away. We want to throw as many bodies at the French as possible. You know what? I take it back. I think we actually want to bring them over here. Well, no, that's good. We'll just leave them there. It's a learning experience. The tactics might be kind of terrible. I'm going to roll my momentum dice, and I say I've used 1 momentum. Let me check. I can proceed. So I could move a second unit now, should I so choose, and I think I will. I will bring this unit up a single inch. That is my second momentum. I say I've done 2. I check. It says you can proceed. I'm going to bring this cavalry unit. They can move 4 base widths. Remember, I've got 1 inch, so there's 1, 2, and that's all I really want to do. I'm going to kind of bring them out here on the wings, maybe draw this cavalry off. That would be fine. That's my third. Now, I can just say, look, I'm done. I know I probably have more momentum. I'm not worried about it. I do want to get to the missile phase, and I want to open fire with this artillery unit. Now, remember what I said. Artillery units each have 5 barrages. Do I want to use one on this turn? Yes, I do, because I am outnumbered and I want to whittle these guys down as much as possible. The way shooting works for your artillery, like I said, you have 5 barrages. Your first barrage is going to be the most powerful. Your boys are fresh. They're all dialed in and ready to go. And if you take a look, each of the lists, so let me just slide this rule book in here and show you. So the Austrians here, when they roll, they've got 5, 4, 4, 3, 2, 2. All right, I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 2. So 1 less, only 5 shots. So you get to roll 5 dice on that first shot if you were only firing at figures. So maybe we go ahead and leave this guy and we just wait until those infantry get close enough, because they will roll all 5 dice out to 2 inches. From 2 to 8 inches, they're only going to roll half as many. That's going to be 3 dice. Bling! So I'm going to use a little red ammo die to show how many times each of the artillery pieces has fired. We're going to roll, as I said, because we are rolling at long distance, we're going to roll 3 dice, hitting on 6s. Because it is a heavy artillery unit, 1 single die that comes up 5 will also count as a hit. We roll 3 dice, we get a single hit, and that's going to knock off the first ammo box on this artillery. And this is how the artillery duel begins. Okay, so the question for the French, of course, will be, do we want to target all 3 of our artillery at this guy, knock him completely off the board so that our infantry can move up? Maybe we do. But regardless, I think he's actually back here just a little bit more. Regardless, we are done with turn number 2, and maybe this game will go a little faster than I thought, at least once I'm done explaining how all the rules work. I will roll my momentum dice, and I'm going to have to move a bunch of individual figures. So my infantry will move up 2 inches. This infantry will move up 2 inches. And I'm going to check my momentum. So I roll, and I've used 1, and I check. I can proceed. I've used 2. I can proceed. I've used, and I should declare, I'm also going to bring my cavalry out here on the wing. I pivot them on their front point, and then I'm going to bring them 4 inches up to here. I don't know how many times I'm going to get to move them, so I definitely want to bring them into position sooner rather than later. And for my last move, I'm going to do the same with this cavalry. We pivot on the center point, and they can move up. I'm only going to move them 3 inches, though. They don't have to move the full distance. And that will end the movement phase of turn number 3. I could probably let me drop this somewhere you can see it just a little bit better. This is not a spin down die. There's the number 3. It is a D30. Maybe that, well, there you go. So we can see the 3 right there. Now it's time for the French to fire, and we're going to fire with this artillery. And let's fire these 2 artillery at this artillery unit. So the first shot, again, because we're between 2 and 8 inches, that we're going to be firing 3 dice on this first shot. Kablam. But remember, this guy took some damage. So instead, what I'm going to do, he's down to 4 dice. So instead, what I'll do is I'll fire these 2 guys with all 5 dice. That means I'm going to get to roll 6 dice all together. And I got to separate these. So I'm going to roll blue for one and red for the other. Because they are all heavy artillery, I have to bear in mind, this is a hit, but only one of them. And that's why I had to distinguish. If I had 2 5s on these red dice, then only one of them would count. Now, as it is, those 2 shots are going to knock this guy from 1 down to 3. And that's really going to limit his effectiveness in this little tutorial game. But that's okay. We don't mind that. That is the end of turn number 3. I'm going to flip this to 4. I'm going to drop some fight. Oh, actually, I'm not done. I have 1 more artillery. And that artillery unit is going to fire on the conscripts. Now, that artillery unit has already fired once. They were at 5 ammo. Now they're going to roll 4 dice. At long range, we're really only going to roll 2. Hitting on a 5, and we're going to be doing 1 point of elan damage. So in this case, I think I'll just go ahead and say, yeah, there's a little 1 pip. So once you take 6 hit points worth of damage, you're off the table. There's some other things that happen when we get into shooting and melee. You can think of this not just necessarily as wounds, but also as like just how effective you are. It's not the percentage of the guys that is out of the fight. It's things like, are you running low on ammo and such? So here we go. So we've got 2 shots, 1 and 1, bringing us to 3, 4, and 4 the next time they fire. And as I said, we are now on to the second British activation, which will be turn 4. And the British are going to, I'm tempted to bring this guy out and just like get in the way and start mucking things up, throwing the French off their game. All we need to do is delay, right? I believe that the rules for defending built-up areas, this unit is in garrison, by the way, so they're defending very hard. I'm just going to remember that in this case. If I had multiple villages and multiple guys that were in a prepared defense, I would probably drop like matchsticks or something around it to show the like impromptu breastworks. But as it is, this game, I think we're fine just like that. After movement, the British look like this. Yeah, they're going to bring 2 of their infantry units up to slow down and just buy time. The artillery now, having taken 2 damage, was it 5, then 4, then 3? So now they're going to be rolling 2 dice, because again, they're rolling half as many. It would be 3, round up, and we're going to fire at, because the cannon aren't really that big of a threat, let's fire at this guy. Let's weaken if we can. And we get 2 2s, so that's nothing. So we're up to 4. And on the next turn, they're only going to be able to fire 1 die. which means when the French take their activation, that they're probably going to ignore this. They can soak 1 point of damage. They really want to wound these infantry, in particular this infantry here. But I got to remember, got to be clear here. Let's not forget to advance the turn counter because we only have 5 turns until the game is really over. And one of the reasons I'm doing this introductory kind of tutorial is that I'm not going to go through all of these rules every game. There's just not enough time for that. We're already like 20 minutes into this video, and we haven't even gotten to our first melee yet. This game is a 2-hour game. I could be building like 4-hour videos. I just don't have the time for that. I got kids in me, baby. As it is with this rolling, but maybe not because the momentum kind of balances things out a little bit. And we'll find out. So I roll for the French. And then the French are going to move. Now, this is a light cavalry. They're not too concerned about that. We do want to move each of these infantry up. And so if I check with 1, I'm good. I can move them both. And they, of course, can move 1, 2 inches, 1, 2 inches. And that might actually cut off the angle here for this artillery. But I'm not too worried about it. Now, can I bring this cavalry? Maybe we want to hit this guy with everything we got. Let's try and move this cavalry first. I'm going to spend another momentum. This is my third. Yeah, so I move him first because I know I'm good. Swing him around the front, and then I'll move him 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to stop right there. Hoping that we don't get hit in the flank by this light cavalry there. And then we check, and that is a stop. So the French are now done moving. We are beyond 2 inches, so there's no fire there. But I do have 1, 2, 3 guns. And the first 2 guns are down to just firepower of 4. Cut that in half for long range. I'm going to take 2 shots. I'm going to get absolutely no hits. I have 1 more barrage that's going to fire here. And because that one is fired too, it's at 3, round up. I get to take 2 shots. I get no hits. So the Grand Battery is really not doing as well as old Boney Party himself had hoped. So we go to 3, we go to 2, and we go to 2 shots fired on this one. And that's it for the shooting. So we advance to turn number 6, and things are really going to get hopping here. The British had enough momentum to move this unit and this unit, and then they ran out of gas. They would love to have brought this light cavalry around in this direction. It just wasn't meant to be. So they're done moving. They've got 1 more shot with their cannon. That's going to be on 2 dice. They're going to wait until they can fire canister to have the maximum effect possible. Means we're all done. Nobody is within shooting range. We move on to turn number 7 out of 30. And it is time for the French to roll their momentum dice. I have no idea what it is, but they are going to move this guy first. 1, 2. And that's as close as he's going to be able to get. We check for momentum, and we can proceed. Then we're going to bring this unit up. You know, I take it back. I'm going to swing this guy around, and he's going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to hold him right there. And then we're going to take this guy and we're going to swing him around. Now, you can swing through your friends. You just can't in the turn overlap. And he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And he doesn't quite have enough momentum to reach this light infant cavalry. So we're going to stop him right there. So we have a little bit more movement. If this guy tries to swing through, we think we can win this combat. Not having played the game, I don't know that that's true, but that's kind of where we're at. So the French are now... Oh, I have to check. So that was our second. And now for our... So we did 1, 2, 3. So did I roll a 4? And I check, and I do get that 4th. So 1, 2, and that's going to be the end of the French movement. Because this unit... Oh, you know... I think we're done. Yeah, I think he moved. So if you move, you can't shoot. So we don't have any firing except with our cannons. And again, this cannon is going to be firing. Let's fire with both of these cannons at this guy. They are still at long range. So we're still only hitting on 6s. So that becomes the 3rd point. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. and we did 2 wounds to this unit. 1, 2, 3. Where's the 3? There's only 6 sides. You think it would be easier for me to find it like that? So we're going to put down 2 Elan loss on this infantry. And then I have 1 more shot, and it's a 45-degree arc. We're going to fire straight through at this guy again. And because we were at 5, 4, 3, we're down to, I think, 2. I think we only roll 1 die to try and target this guy. But a 5 will hit. He takes his 2nd point of damage. And I like it. So we're down to 4 here. Remember that you can retire units. And this is where artillery may come in handy. This is where we may have some tactical decisions. We're going to stop with this guy. If he takes 1 more point of damage, he retires. And that may be, so maybe we just get 1 more shot with each of these, hopeful that this cavalry doesn't run around and do 1 point of damage. It could roll up our entire grand battery, and that might be the end of our offense. On the other hand, we can start to pivot and maybe hit those guys with some grape shot to avoid that. Be that as it may, here on the French 4th turn number 7, we have completed everything because we don't have anybody that can fire just yet. I think the British might. Let's see if the British can fire. This guy, there's your 2-inch range. So this unit is out of skirmish range. So we're just going to have to wait until he gets a little bit closer. Let's turn our counter to turn number 8. And now the British are going to activate. We roll the momentum dice. And the first movement on the part of the British is going to be nothing at all. Well, should we take that last shot with this guy? No, because we want to wait till he gets to within 2 inches. We're going to move this light cavalry. We'll swing them around the center of this frontage, and then we'll go, and sometimes I measure precisely front to front. They can go to right here, and they're getting close, man. Maybe next turn. No, by the time they pivot, they're going to be just a little bit out of charge range. All right, so that's it for the British movement. I think, does anybody else want to move? Maybe we should bring these guys up to slow things down a little bit. Oh, do I have the momentum for that? I'd use 1 and I check. I can proceed. And I go to 2. So we could actually bring these guys up to here to slow down the French assault, to force a charge here. Yeah, let's do that. Since they didn't move, they can open fire. It's at short range. They've got firepower. Let's see what happens. Because this unit is reduced to 4 Elan, they will roll 4 firepower dice. Remember, they hit on 6s. But because they have firepower, these are, what are we calling these guys? Elite infantry. They will get to roll 1 extra die. So we roll all 5 dice. We are hitting on, I believe we're hitting on 6s. So let me roll and find out. So that is definitely a hit. This becomes a 2nd hit because of the firepower. So I got this a little wrong. We're within 1 inch, so we still roll all 5 dice. They don't get the extra die. Instead, one of the 5s becomes a hit. So I should re-roll these, and I should really have only rolled 4 dice. I'm glad I caught it. And in this case, they're only going to do 1 point of Elan damage to the French. Might be a game changer. Who knows? That is the last of the firing that the British can do. Everybody else is out of range. As I said before, we're holding off on this guy. It becomes the French turn. We're on turn number 9 now, and the French roll their momentum dice. And the first thing they are going to do is charge home here. That is, I think that only costs 1 momentum. It might cost 2. That is the case. Our conscripts now are going to pivot and charge here. So they'll contact the corner. That's okay. It's not a flank attack. That's just where they wind up. That is the 2nd momentum, and we're going to check to see if we have enough. We rolled higher than a 3, so our light cavalry, as we said before, can't... Oh, yeah, what am I doing here? I should be rolling for... I should be checking the French. You don't charge. The French charge. Kablam right here. And then the French can charge here, like so. And then, I made them conform. You don't do that. The French were there. We hit them like that. We hit them in the flank. Okay. Do we have one more activation? Let's find out. We've moved 3. We'll check number 4. Yes, and we're going to be done. I'm actually going to do a difficult move. Now, the difficult move means, so normally, if you pivot up to 45 degrees, is that right? So a simple move, pivot to any direction, move your full distance. For a difficult move, if you end facing in a different direction than the direction it moved. In other words, I don't like being this close to these infantry. So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to move up here just a little bit, and then I'm going to pivot one more time, and that becomes a difficult move. So I can only move the... It's not listed here in my cheat sheet. I have to go to the one page. There we go. 2 inches. Cavalry can move 2 inches and then reset like so. Kind of daring this artillery unit to fire at me. He's not. All right, hey, we have our first melee now. How exciting is that? We actually have 3 of them. We'll start with the cavalry because they charged our, it says heavy cavalry here. They are our dragoons. The boys in blue are going to be rolling all 6 dice. They haven't taken any damage. They also have shock, which gives them an extra d6 on the attack. The guys they are charging are going to roll 6 dice. They are not steady. They also have shock. It's not going to do them a whole lot of good. So here's what we do. We roll for the defender, and the defender is going to succeed on 4 or better. The defender is going to get a total of 3 successes. Then you roll for the defender. Well, that's the attacker, rather, I should say. Roll for the defender, and once again, the defender is going to count up the number of successes. The defender has a single success. The attacker has 3 successes. With a differential of 2, that means the French heavier horse are going to do 2 points of damage, reducing the elan of the British light cavalry down to 4. So that's why I have the little 2 dice there. If the defender is flanked, he has to re-roll successes. So the defender actually has to roll again. He gets a 5, so that's a miss. We actually take 3 points of damage. And I think, take 2 fatigue. If the defender is equal or outscored, take 2 fatigue. If not broken, retreat. So the differential is not... hold on. If the defender outscores the attacker takes 2 fatigue. The attacker takes 1 fatigue regardless. It's tiring to do this whether you win or lose. Because the attacker, if any defenses equal or outscore the attack... All right, this is a little odd. I kind of like it though. First, we check and see what the defender's result was. Because the defender was outscored, he takes an elan damage, they call it fatigue, equal to the combat differential. Since it's not broken, it's not down to 0 elan, it will retreat. Okay, so he's going to retreat. We'll talk about what that means here in a little bit. But we have to see what the result is for the attacker. If it outscored the defenders, take 1 fatigue, may advance if no defenders remain in contact. In other words, if I was fighting 2 different guys and I chased one off, then I wouldn't be able to advance. But because it's just a 1v1, I'm going to be okay. So retreat means retreat 2 base widths. The active unit remains facing in the direction it retreated from. Because it is passive, it retreats, and then it is turned to face the direction of its retreat. In other words, we're going to move 2 inches, 1, 2, away from our attacker, and then we're going to pivot him to face away from the attacker. See that? That's kind of a long way to go, but that's where things remain. And I probably should have marked where this charge started from because he's going to be able to follow up, and I'm just going to follow him up to right there, and we'll call it good. Okay, so the cavalry chased off the cavalry on that wing. Now that we have a better idea how this works, we should be able to go a little bit faster. As you can see, the British foot, the passive side, the defender, has an elan of 4, they've taken 2 damage. The attacker has an elan of 5. But because the British are steady, they will have 1 success on a 5. Normally it's 6s. 1 5 will be a success. And the same is true for the attacker. They have, wait a minute, they have shock and they have skirmish, which is all about shooting. So yeah, so it's going to be 5 dice versus 4 dice. Everybody hits on 6s, except both sides can count a single 5 as a success. So these 3 5s aren't going to do the British any good. The British have 1 success. The French have 2 successes. The attacker has 1. Because, we'll do the defender first, because he was outscored, he takes another fatigue. So he goes from 2 to 3. And then he will retreat. The attacker will take 1 fatigue. He goes back 1. I think you can pivot 1, 2, and then you face away from pursuit. And because pursuit started fairly close, we're just going to bring him up to about there, and we'll just call it good. We have 1 more battle. And in this case, the conscripts really aren't as bad as you might think. They have a couple of damage, so in this melee, they're only going to roll 4 dice, whereas the attackers are going to roll 6, and the French attackers are, of course, guard infantry. They have shock, so they will count 1 5. The conscripts are not steady, so they don't get any 5s. They're only successful on 6s. That is a 6 off board. The French are going to score a total of 3 successes, and the British will score none for a differential of 3. That brings this militia unit down to just 5 points. They will also retreat 1, 2. Is that really what retreat may advance? Let's see. If the defender is outscored, if not broken, then retreat. And retreat says retreat 2 base widths. If you are passive, turn to face the direction of its retreat. Yeah, so because they didn't charge, they're going to be turned to face this way. If you were the charging unit, you would simply withdraw like 2 base widths, but you would still face the direction. You would still face the guy that you charged. And then these guys have a little bit of follow-up movement, so they're going to wind up right there. And I think that's going to be the end of the turn. Yeah, so that went pretty good. That went pretty quick. That's the end of turn number 9. And now the British get to go. And we have a couple of different options here. Because these guys followed up, is that 45 degrees? I think they're just close enough. Well, what's the movement that we got? Can we charge? Do we want to charge this guy in the flank? We're going to get hit by those horsey boys if we do. I think we do. That's probably the smart play here. And I'm not sure what to do about that light cavalry over there. Is there a recovery phase? That would be really helpful. Maybe we want to charge, but things get complicated when you're charging out of the woods. You can't charge out of the woods. So I think maybe the better bet is just to bring, well, we can only move them 2 inches. So let's see if we can bring this cavalry out of the fight just a little bit more. First we roll. I need to check momentum. I'm going to roll. And I'm going to do my first movement is going to be, well, wait a minute. What am I doing? Yeah, so the British are going to try to move that light horse. And that's all they're going to be able to do. They're going to try to bring him, say, over to here. So that's a 3. You cannot fire out of a urban area. These guys just have to sit and wait. The artillery here will go ahead and fire. Because they are down to their last ammo point, we're going to fire right here. Heavy artillery, of course, hits on a 5 or a 6. That's going to do 1 point of damage to this French infantry. And then the British artillery will retire, having run out of ammo and knowing full well that things don't go well in that situation. So I think the British are done. Now, if you have momentum left, you can rally troops to remove 1 or more. We can get these guys turned around. So the question then becomes, what's the best way to deal with these guys? And the answer is, I think we need to bring our heavy infantry, our heavy cavalry back into the fray. So we're going to move them first, and we have another point. I gotta get these dice out of the way so we can do some stuff. All right, so this heavy cavalry is going to pivot around its front, and then it's going to charge 4 inches back to here. And then we can charge home here. We want to drive these guys off, and we have enough. I'm going to check. Sure enough, we can charge home here. We'll drive them off, and we still have enough momentum. We can charge this infantry unit in the flank. See? So you pivot, and then your center line comes, and because we are entirely on the flank, we're going to hit them like so. And that's going to be it for the French. We probably, the other thought I have here, we only need 1 hit. I think maybe instead of charging there, why don't we go ahead and just fire? Let's see what happens. They still have 5 elan. They do have skirmish, so they're going to count 1 5. So we're rolling 5 dice, and we just need a single 5 or a 6, and that's going to drive this British unit off the table so we can focus on the garrison. Now, the garrison is no slouch. They're going to be really tough to dislodge. Next turn. For now, we have a couple of melees to resolve. Let's resolve this one first. The French, of course, have 4 elan remaining to just 3 for the British. And the British are now hit in the rear. So, what does that mean? Let me take a look at my cheat sheet. The defender must re-roll successes. So we're doing our infantry on infantry fight. Everybody is hitting on 4s. The British get 3 successes, but they have to re-roll one of them, meaning they're only going to have 2. And then the French now, with that die roll, will also have 2 successes. The British infantry take 1 fatigue because it was a tie. And that's going to be it for them. They just stop. The French, because it was a tie, with those 2 successes, defender flank, prepared. I feel like I'm missing something here. The attacker has shock. The defender has steady. So if the attacker has shock, which he does, that's what I'm missing. The French get 1 more die. They have shock, and that's not going to do them any good. So they would actually be rolling 5 dice. I think these guys are steady too. They might get 1 more die. So instead of the 3, they roll 4, but a 2 means it's still tied. Now, because the French did not succeed in driving them off, they're going to take 2 fatigues because the defender equaled. And then they're going to retreat 1. They're not broken. And remember, retreat means fall back 2 base widths. And, because they're the active unit, they still remain facing the way they are. But they're now down to just 2 elan. So even charging a unit in the rear, they're retiring in good order. So the battle is not as unequal as you might think it is. It's certainly not chainmail, is it, ladies and gentlemen? We have 1 more to do here, and that's going to be these British dragoons who have shock fighting a fresh British infantry unit. So kind of a high-risk thing here, except that the British, because they're charged in the flank, have to re-roll all of their successes. Did I get that right this time? I say that a lot. It's a tutorial. That is exactly what it means. We're counting 4 ups as successes for both teams. And we get, on the side of the British, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least on the first roll. The British don't do nearly so well. They're only going to wind up with 2 successes, but the British do have to re-roll everything, and they're still going to wind up with 1, 2, 3, 4 successes. How about that? The defender beat the attacker. He takes 1 fatigue. And now you see why, in Napoleonics, if you're cavalry, you don't necessarily want to do this. The attacker now, because they outscored the defender, if the defender is greater than the attackers, take 1 fatigue. And if that breaks you, you're done. Now, because they're the active player, the French are going to fall back 1, 2. But because they got outscored, they're going to take 2 fatigue, not just the 1. See that? All right. So 2 to 1, that didn't go so hot for the French. They're going to have a harder time than I anticipated here. Maybe we do want to use up all of our artillery, softening up this unit, but they have some serious defensive chops. Maybe we just want to shoot and blast this guy out of the water on the French turn. It is the British turn, though. It's the British turn. They wind up with the 3 elan that they needed to charge infantry on infantry, to bring the horses back into the fray, and we're actually going to leave this guy here. We're going to open fire. We know, whoops, this is actually turn number 12. We know that this French unit is 2 base widths away because they retreated. So the one thing, what we did here, I might have done this wrong now that I think about it. This unit was facing this way, and if they want to pivot and fire, then they're going to be 3 inches away because remember they pivot on the front edge. That's interesting. And I think we do because it means that these French can't get to the garrison just yet. So even though we can't fire, we leave it as is. And we do have this fight here, which will be 6v6, 5 elan. We have shock, we have defender. Everybody has steady, everybody has shock here. So it's going to be 6v6. Although this time, the French now have to re-roll all of their successes. On the first roll, they get 3 successes. They are hit in the flank, so they have to re-roll those, and they wind up with just 1 success. That means that with the 1, 2, 3, 4 successes for the British, the French are going to take 3 fatigue. They're going to go to 4. They are the passive player. The British are going to go to 2 fatigue. 2 fatigue, there we go. And then because they outscored the British so definitively, the defender is going to retreat 2 base widths. Boom, boom, and then wind up facing away from the attacker. So we could actually come out of garrison. We could charge these guys to drive them from the field. That might not be a bad strategy. That's it for the British turn. We go on to the French turn number 13, and the French are going to roll, and we'll just come back after movement. Heavy cavalry preparing for a charge over here. We've got 2 units. These guys moved up. This French unit, 45 degrees. I think we could probably shoot at this guy. And then, of course, we have a melee over there. If we do fire here, we are going to be volleying. We are going to be able to roll an extra success, but because we only have 2 elan, remember when you fire them muskets, you're only hitting on 6s, but we get the 2 6s that it takes to drive this unit from the field. Now we're down to just 2 units with 2 elan. This could be a problem. Let's see if we can drive this unit from the field as well. Oh no, we do have some more shooting to do. I do think, well, they're engaged. We can't fire at them yet. Our cannons are just going to be no good. The heavy cavalry are now blocked line of sight through the woods. Yeah, maybe we should have just used those guys up on the cavalry just to soften them up. The cavalry, I don't think, can attack through an urban area. We'll have to kind of check on that. But be that as it may, we do have one fight down here where we have a unit of French that are steady, or a unit of British that are steady, versus a unit of French with shock. So 5 dice versus 5 dice. The red dice will have to re-roll all of their successes. Hasn't seemed to bother the British yet. The British get 3 successes on the initial roll. They have to re-roll those. And now finally they lose down to just 1 success. The French, for their part, are only going to get 2 successes. That will do 1 fatigue as the differential. And then the British unit will have to retreat. We'll read this one more time. I just got to make sure I get this right. When you retreat, because you're the passive, it retreats 2 base widths, and then it's turned to face the direction of its retreat, directly away from the guy that caused it. I think you have a little bit of latitude, 1, 2, and then you stay facing in that direction. And the cavalry now can follow up with the remainder of their movement. Again, I need to be better about tracking that. The cavalry, of course, are going to take 1 fatigue point, and that will turn this to a 3. And that will end the French turn. We advance to turn 14, and we can do some British movement. The light cavalry continue their pursuit of the dragoons. This infantry unit pivots, and we're done for the British. Moving on to turn number 15, we are now at basically the halfway mark. This will be the 8th activation for the French. We roll for our momentum dice, and the first thing we're going to do is bring all of our artillery up. The first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to bring this guy. I'm going to pivot him. I'm going to move 1 inch. I'm going to bring him over here. I think that's about 1 inch. So that's my first one. Then I'm going to move my artillery up. And I'm now, because you have to do your individual movements first. So I'm only going to be able to bring this guy up 1-2 inches. I'm not. Well, no, you know what? Maybe I don't do that. Because I have 3 shots. Now these guys, I have 3 shots at this unit. This is the unit I'm primarily concerned about. I need to soften him up, and I don't have a whole lot of time left. So I'm going to use up the rest of my ammo here. I've got 2 shots with 3 ammo. And when you're firing on a garrison in a prepared position, I think you're only hitting on 6s. Yeah, it counts as being obstructed. We're at long range, so I'm going to roll for these 2. I get no hits, and then I have 1 more shot with the 3rd artillery, and I get no hits. So artillery firing into a built-up area proves about as effective as you would expect. I'm a little disappointed. I had hoped to get at least 1 impact out of that. I'm only going to be able to roll 2 more dice, fishing for 6s, but it is what it is. I think we may wind up firing some volleys here rather than charging in for melee. We're now done with the French turn. We go to turn number 16. And the light cavalry now. I have to, of course, roll my momentum. I'm going to begin with the light cavalry, and I can proceed. So the light cavalry will slam home. Just slowing them down, right? Remember, we just got to do some damage. They've already got 2 fatigue. We're going to do another point of fatigue here, at least 1. So when it does get into the fight, it's not going to do as much good. And I think that's the only movement we really want to do for the British. We could conceivably charge out, but that would leave the town open to the 2nd unit. You can't fire out. You're just not effective. You can't get enough warm bodies on the walls or in the windows to shoot out. So that's about the best we can do there. I think we can fire a skirmish volley over here on the shooting phase. So the British will do that. We'll start with a skirmish volley. They are going to be, well, it's actually, their skirmishes are out. They're going to be re-rolling. They're going to get a hit on a 5 to no avail. And then we can do our, what do we got here? We've got 3 dice for the light cavalry, and we've got 4 for the heavy because they are, wait, do we? Those dragoons have shock. They are not steady. The light cavalry has shock, and they're impetuous, which means when they overrun you, they have to follow up. I've been doing everybody following up every time, I think. Hey, be that as it may, we're counting 4s, 5s, and 6s. The British get nothing. The French this time are going to get 3 successes, but remember, because they've been hit in the rear, they have to re-roll all 3. They're still going to wind up with 2 successes, and that's going to take the light cavalry to 5. They will have to retreat 1-2 base widths and face the wrong direction for themselves. They've only got 1 elan left. Now, bear in mind, if we were playing a legitimate game of Blucher, with all the boys on the table, removing 1/3 of the figures would end the fight. This would already be over for the British. But we're not. We're just learning how the game works. The basics. And that's really all you have to do sometimes. So we did that. So now we're on to turn 17. And the French are going to have to do some stuff. I think we just wait. I don't think I fired with these guys. So the French, why don't we go ahead and just charge in and try to drive these guys off? We know that's the only... Oh, you know what? Let me roll. Because if I can do 2 things, and I can. That means we're going to chase this light cavalry off. We're just going to go ahead and finish this off. So we charge there and there, and we'll do shooting first. So we can fire here, and we're only going to roll 2 dice because we only have 2 Elan. We only hit on 6s, so nothing doing. Oh, you know what? I think we have 3 dice. We have 3 dice because we have shock, but because we're firing in a prepared position, we only get 2. So we take a second shot here, and we get nothing. Our artillery are going to fire, and we're only going to get 2 dice, and we're just fishing for 6s. We're finally going to do 1 point of damage to the garrison. So I'm going to put that little die right in front. But that will be the last of the ammunition. Our grand battery is now going to retire. They're going to go try to find some more cannonballs for next time. Now we have 2 melees that we have to do. Over here, we're going to roll 1 die for the British light cavalry, and they're going to have to re-roll if it's successful. And we're going to roll 4 dice. No, the heavy cavalry are rolling 5. No, they have shock. They're rolling 4 dice. 1 of the 5s will hit. They're going to do 1 point of damage. That will eliminate this unit. That unit did 1 point of damage, but with a reroll, it does none. So the heavy cavalry did what you would expect. They drove off the light cavalry, but the light cavalry slowed them down. It's going to be a couple of more turns before they can get into the action. I have 1 more fight here. That fight will be 3 dice versus, I'm struggling to remember that shock is giving you the 5, not the extra die. Page 51 is where they finally explain this stuff. Impetuous. Oh, that's for the shooting, though. Where's the melee explained, guys? If you have steady, you gain an extra die. All right, I think I got it. In melee, the bonuses give you extra dice. Our attacking cavalry gets an extra die on the attack. 3 Elan plus 1. The defenders have 3 Elan plus 1 because they are steady. They are facing the cavalry, so this is going to be just a straight up fight. Everybody counts 5s and 6s. The British will get 2 successes. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. 4s are successes. So it's 3v3. And that means the attacker will take, so the defender outcome, this is the defender. He's the passive player. Because it's equal, he takes 1 fatigue. So he goes to 4. Boop, boop, boop. And then the attacker, because he was not successful, he's going to take 2 fatigue. He will go to 5, and then he will retreat 1, 2. And he has to face in the bad direction. So he's run away, and that means that the British can fire on him next turn. So that was turn 17. That was the French turn. They did a lot of shooting, a lot of fighting. The British now on turn number 18. I still think the French could win this. It's not looking great. But this video is going to be like 80% me looking for the right die face. Do they make spin down 30-sided dice? I should look into that. The British now get to go, and the British don't want to move anybody. The only thing they have is they're going to fire here, and that's going to be it. So they're going to take 2 little pot shots. Now, in this case, when you're shooting, that's where the 5s count as successes. They're going to fire at a skirmish range, and they're going to get no successes. We just haven't done anything with shooting. If they'd been able to score a single success, this cavalry would have been driven from the field. That's it for the British. That's literally all they're going to do. The French are going to, they're on turn number 19. They're only going to get like 6 more activations. Let's hope that their momentum die roll is high enough. The heavy cavalry will move closer and we'll check. They can proceed. Then we're just going to, that other heavy cavalry is going to turn to face. And should we go ahead and charge? We're going to be at the disadvantage. I think maybe we have to. We got to try. I know that's normally not great, but we need to drive this guy off so these guys can come in here. And then, of course, this heavy cavalry, like I said, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. So it's now trying to get into the action as well. I don't think it can attack the garrison, though. We're going to take a couple of pot shots here. We've got a total of 2, 4. Now we're firing at our full elan. Again, we're fishing for sixes. We get a single 6 to knock this guy down to 2. And he still has 4 hit points left. He cannot be flanked. So the combat, when we do finally slam home, is going to be really interesting. Come on, roll around to the 2 guy. There we go. Good boy. Such a good D6. I like him. Then we have this combat over here where the French are only going to roll 2 dice to the British 3 because they have 2 elan. They are steady. Looking for successes. Nobody has any required rerolls. The British and the French are each going to get 1. That means the French will retire, but not before they do a single point of damage, and they really needed to do 2, but I guess there was no way to do that if you're only rolling 2 dice. You were hoping for no successes over. Yeah, because we're succeeding on 4s. So now we have a couple. Did I fish for 6s over here yet? Did I roll the 2s and 2s? I did, and I didn't get any because shooting is terrible in this game. I forgot to move this guy. No, I did move that guy, so we move on to turn number 20. And the British says, okay, you know what? I need to bring this guy around. I'll pivot him around the front, and I'll go 1, 2. And that's just to kind of get in the way of the cavalry over there, just to slow him down for a turn or 2. And then that's going to be it. I don't think that since they move, they can't fire. We go on to turn number 21. We have 5 turns, and really, I think what this all boils down to here is this final assault by the badly mauled French troops. First of all, the first unit is going to charge. I can proceed. The second unit is going to charge. I can proceed. So we're going to hit this guy here, and the way we're going to go, there's no flanks. We don't have to worry about any of that. But things get a little bit more interesting because we have a 2-on-1 situation here. I do have enough elan. I can bring this heavy horse up here to drive this British unit from the field. I'm going to start with that combat. The French would, of course, start with that combat because they're rolling 5 attack dice to just 2 for the steady British. Counting successes, the British get none. The French get a bunch. This unit is finally off the table. And then we're going to go ahead and opt to follow up to there. We'll see if that cavalry unit can actually come into the fray down here in Bumville. Now, this is where things get a little more interesting. The unit in Bumville, because they have 4 elan, I have 2 attacks here and 2 attacks here. They both have shock. He is steady. He's the passive player. The British is the passive player here. He has to divide these dice up however he chooses. So he's actually going to defend 3 against one and 2 against the other. You have to go as even as possible. Now, this could be important if I had 4 elan and 2 elan. Then I might want to change these up. But because they both just have 2 elan left, this is as good as anything. Okay? So we're gonna handle these 2 combats. Let me just roll the dice, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen here. So we get no successes over here on this right flank. And now the French are going to attack, and we get a single success on the part of the British. But there's actually something else going on here. Because that defender is in difficult terrain, each of these guys would have received 1 less attack. And you actually get 2 more dice because you are in the garrison, Mr. British fella. So the British actually gets to roll 1 more dice against each of these guys. He gets a miss there, and he gets a miss there. So the only real result is that this French unit goes to 5, but because they are the attacking units, they can go back 2, and now we're done. Okay? You get +2 to your dice when you're defending in a garrison. It's a British turn. They don't want to do anything, so we go on to turn number 23. And now I need to check, does the cavalry get to attack here? Yeah, unfortunately for the French, the cavalry cannot charge into a garrison, a built-up area. So we're just down to the French flinging a last gasp in. Maybe, I don't know, man, do we spend another turn softening them up? That might be the way to go. They can't shoot out. So we just stand off and we just go looking for 6s. We're only going to get to roll 3 dice per turn. And on this turn, we're going to score 1 success. So that goes to 3. And that's all we can do is just kind of stand here. And then on turn numbers, that was turn 23. On turn 25, we do the same thing. We're going to fire 2 and 1. But I think we get to count. No, we don't get to count the 5s as successes. So we get, is that the 3 successes that we needed? When you're shooting at a garrison, a shooter and shooter is, let's see, a shooter receives a bonus. Artillery receives a bonus. Infantry is penalized when shooting. Yeah, I guess, man, that's it. That might be the end of the game, but I can't quite wrap my brain around this. Because it says, the rules here say, urban areas do not provide cover. No unit may fire. Let's see. Infantry fire does not pass into or through an urban area. Let me read that again. Infantry fire does not pass into an urban area. But then down here it says a garrison has cover when being fired upon by artillery, any other type of unit, or an infantry unit that is in an urban area but not a garrison does not have cover. So I think it means I can't shoot you out of an urban area. I think you have to force someone out via melee. I did notice you're supposed to reduce your attacker's dice by 1 because they're kind of like, they're just inside the urban area, which is difficult terrain. So if I have a figure that's like this, the front edge is in the difficult terrain, when they fight combat, they reduce their dice by 1. So in this case, because I only had 1 elan left, reducing it by 1 means I can't even attack. Like, you have to have at least 2 elan. And, so I think I did this wrong. I think the British are going to win this after a very hard-fought battle, but I'm not sure. Now that I've played this, I understand some of the questions I have better. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to retreat from my own Bumville of Napoleonics, and I'm going to wait until you fine fellows who have 10 years of experience with Blucher can explain to me what all I did wrong here, so that when I try to play a legitimate game of Blucher, a larger battle, we can do that. The other thing that I learned is that you don't want to go through all of the little details of how many things, how many momentum, how many things, we've got to do all the battles. I think we just take, like I said in the last video, a hex to hex approach. Now, Sexy Hexy, when he does his hex and counter war games, he just plays out a turn. And then he comes back and says, okay, well, here we are over here on the, well, this would be the British right flank, and here's what happened. These guys got chased off. They rolled really well. They rolled really badly. These guys retreated. These guys moved up. And then over here in the center, this happened. And then these guys did terrible over here on the left. We'll be right back. So, if I can condense each of those down to about a minute or 2 of explanation, we'll get through a nice chunky battle in about 30 to 60 minutes, which is what we're looking for. This one went long, and it was only 6 units, but we did every single die roll. So we may just have to scale back. Do a little bit less dicing, a little bit more storytelling. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Getting better every day, just the way we do. Until next time, guys, I'm praying for you.